You guys are the beginning portion of the greatest political comeback in American history. Is that you could put Donald Trump in exile at Mar-a-Lago, but you can't make 75, 80 million people disappear.
All right, now that we've covered the narrative, we're going to cover why the narrative became so unbelievable. And I think why all the conspiracies sprouted off of this so quickly, and why nobody believed it, and why people still don't believe the official narrative. And I'm not saying I believe the narrative completely either. I think it's plausible and possible. But guys, the rest of this video, we're going to go into a lot of the stuff that is possible and is not possible, but I think it's important to understand why they exist in the first place, okay? Let me ask you a question. If you had simply heard Tyler Robinson went up the stairway, got onto the roof, took a shot, ran and jumped off the roof, and that later that night he confessed to his parents and they took him to the police department and turned him in, would you have thought anything weird? Would you have been like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. There's no way this could have happened like they say it did? No, you would have just been like, oh, like, case solved, right? At least I think the majority of people would have. Whether or not it's a good thing, I don't know. I think it's still good to question things even if they sound legit, right, at this point. But I think we can get to the root of why everyone thinks there's no way it could have happened the way they say it did. And maybe it didn't. Maybe there's no way it could have happened the way they said it. But I want to get to the root issue. Guys, now I'm going to get to why I think people have such a huge explosion of conspiracies, why nobody can believe what they're being told. And I think it has to do with just cognitive overload, okay? For example, let's just pretend like maybe you're going through a divorce, okay? Then you crash your car and your car is disabled and now you got to rent a car and spend a bunch of money on a rental car. And then you find out you're getting divorced. And then you find out you lost your job. And then you find out the stock market crashed and all your backup savings are just completely gone, okay? All right, so now you're just in a state where you're just so stressed out. You're so already panicking about money. You're panicking about your situation. You're worried about your future. And you can hardly even just think. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in situations where similar to where it feels like this. And then you go to the store with your kids and your kids are like, I want this piece of candy. I want that piece of candy. I want this, I want that. I want to go to Disneyland right after this. Like, hey, Mom, I saw my friend's house on the way to the store. Can you drop me off there on the way home? Blah, 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 blah. And you're just already thinking about way too many things to make rational decisions, and you just start screaming at your kids like, don't you know we're going through a divorce right now? Don't you understand I don't have any money? We can't go to Disneyland, blah, 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 blah. And you just start like freaking out because you don't have the rational mind just to remain calm and just relax and just kind of deal with it in a cognitively rational way. You might even start crying. I've seen people break down in tears. I have no idea what they're going through in the middle of the grocery store over their kid asking for something, and they're freaking out, and they have no idea what to do because all their kids are just doing crazy things. Maybe that's a bad example, but I think you understand where I'm kind of going there. And I think that's something that's similar that happened in this case. All right, guys, what starts this chain of this cognitive overload that I'm talking about? First, guys, we see Charlie Kirk get shot, and that was just a very terrible, terrible moment. It's probably the worst thing anybody's seen publicly happen. And I mean, it was basically a public execution, or the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk was just so shocking, you know, like, and the first things you feel after that, first of all, you feel like very sad. It was just very, very sad, right? I mean, I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. It's a very, very sad feeling. But then right after that, you just start feeling some kind of rage. Like, who did this? Who could have done this? We need to catch this person and make sure that they're punished, right? Like, it's that massive feeling of vengeance, okay? And that on its own is a very, very powerful feeling, okay? And then right after that, we get George Zinn. We get George Zinn yelling that he did it. And then immediately after that, a couple hours later, they arrest someone else and they release both those people. So already, guys, we're already enraged about something that happened to someone that was so nice. Like, Charlie Kirk was such a nice person compared to like some of these other commentators on our side that are just brutal, honest, and truthful. And I agree 100% pretty much with most of them. But they were not as nice as Charlie Kirk, you know? And then you have all these feelings of like, man, the police cannot catch this person. This person got away already. Like, the police are inept. They can't do their jobs. Like, they've already arrested 2 people and let 2 people go away. Like, how can they not catch this person? Okay. So already your brain is already starting to question the the ability of the police to do their jobs correctly. Okay, so you're already thinking, man, the police suck. Like, the government cannot do its job. Okay, then what we get is the photo that's turned into 4 photos, and people are like, why are they releasing a photo of 4 different people? They did not understand that that photo was only one person. It was enhanced to try to find someone who looks similar so they could catch this person as soon as possible. People immediately started coming out saying, oh my gosh, there's 4 different suspects and they all look very similar. Okay, so that started happening. Then right after that, you hear from Governor Cox. Okay, guys, it was Governor Cox. It wasn't the FBI, who said that Tyler Robinson went on campus, that he changed into clothes like 2 or 3 different times.
When he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing.
And then he went on the roof, assembled the rifle, then he took the shot, disassembled the rifle, then went into the wooded area and put the rifle back together again. And I don't know where that came from, because that's obviously not true, right? You can clearly see the rifle already put back together on the roof. It's possible that he had it disassembled down his pants, like they were saying, on the way in, maybe. But there's no way he took it back apart again and then put it back together after he jumped off the roof. At this point, we're already enraged because Charlie got shot. Then we're like, the police can't even catch the right guy. Then we get a photo of 4 different people, and people don't understand it's just one, but that's what was going on at that time. People couldn't understand because I think their brains were already so confused. Then we hear that he changed on the roof 2 or 3 different times, and then he took the rifle apart, put it back together, and then and everyone's brains are like, this is just no way this is true. Like, this is the most ridiculous story we've ever been told in our entire lives. Like, there's no way that he changed clothes a bunch of times. There's no way he took the rifle apart a bunch of times, and all this other stuff that didn't make any sense. And guys, like I said, that was Governor Cox, not the FBI. It's attributed to the FBI. Okay. At this point, people are already overloaded. They're so confused. They're so like bewildered about how does any of this could be true. And so people start trying to piece things together. And they're like, well, none of this can be true. Nothing we've been told is true. If he didn't change his clothes, and if he didn't take the rifle apart, then nothing else can be true. Nothing can possibly be true about this whole situation. And so they start looking for evidence. That's when they get the video of him on the roof. And they say, well, there's no way this is real because his shadow disappears on the white spot. And then there's a person running into a tree and disappearing behind the tree. And so they kind of try to debunk that video. And so people are out there getting this information, and they're hearing that that video is fake. They're seeing that that video is fake, and they're taking it as gospel. Maybe it's some influencer that they really like sharing that news, that this video is fake. And if they say, well, if that video is fake, that means the FBI is for sure in on it. And from that point on, we start getting theories just exploding like popcorn, like all kinds of theories coming out of nowhere. Just thousands and thousands of theories, from Dairy Queen to that it's Israel, to that it was his own people, all the way to the theory that it was aliens on top of Mount Timpanogos with some kind of crazy technology, to people saying that they see bullets on the camera, caught on camera, to someone saying it's behind them from a car with an infrared laser. Infrared lasers don't even work during the day, guys. But just so many things just start coming out that, okay, because of the narrative being so crazy, which I don't think it really is that crazy, guys. I think the only reason it's seen as that crazy is because we were being told all this stuff. And I don't think that they were necessarily even lying to us. I think that they didn't have the security footage. And we're going to go over this next, guys. We're going to go over this stuff in more detail next. But I think what happened is they didn't have all the security footage yet. So they saw him wearing 2 different outfits. And they figured, oh, he changed on campus somewhere. When did that happen? We don't know, but we're just going to release that. And then I think the video of him jumping off the roof, you can't really see clearly that he has a rifle unless you're very, very analytical and you watch it like a whole bunch of times. You can see that the rifle's still put together. I think Governor Cox probably just thought, oh, he took the rifle apart. I don't know why he released that or why he said that, but it's a very dumb thing to say. But I think he was just speculating. I don't think he was necessarily lying about it. Guys, I swear I had the footage of Governor Cox saying the suspect had taken the rifle apart and then put it back together and then taking it apart again and then put it back together again. I cannot find it anywhere, so it's either been scrubbed from the internet to save Governor Cox's embarrassment, or he never said it at all and I just thought he did. But I also cannot find it anywhere where the FBI said that he took the rifle apart and put it back together. So I did some digging, and what I've discovered is Kash Patel did say on an interview with Fox that there was a screwdriver with DNA on the roof. That's all he said. He didn't say that it was used to put it back together and take it apart and put it back together and take it apart again. He mentions that there's a screwdriver with the DNA on the roof. And I think if the narrative is true, or if it was Tyler Robinson, because if it's his DNA and it's on the roof, right, could be planted, whatever. But if it is true that the narrative is true, I think what probably happened was that on the way there to the roof, he probably had the rifle disassembled to begin with. Maybe he had half the rifle down one leg and half down the other, or both halves down one. It would be a lot easier to carry that because he'd be a lot shorter, right? Instead of 48 inches, you'd probably be looking at 23 inches or so. Anyways, I think then he probably got on the roof, put it together, took the shot, and then ran off the roof, left the screwdriver, did not take it apart and put it back together, and then take it apart and put it back together again. That's really stupid. And then just jumps off the roof with the rifle. I think that's probably what happened, if the narrative is true. And if he was the one up there, or if it was someone else, I think that's what happened. I think what I've discovered is that people took the statement about the screwdriver and they made their own story about it. And they shared that information in a bunch of reels like we're going to talk about. And pretty soon that became the narrative, even though no one ever said it. And then we get to the point where this video gets put out, convincing everyone that it's for sure fake and that it's all AI. And then from there, everyone's minds just were already agreeing that it's all crazy. And then everything went from there. But guys, in the next couple of videos, we're going to show you Dairy Queen. That whole thing is manufactured. We're going to show you that photo that they released was only one person. It was just an AI representation trying to find the suspect as quick as possible. And then I'm going to show you proof that video on the roof is real. There was a person on that roof. Whether or not it was Tyler Robinson, I can't prove that, and I can't prove the narrative is 100% correct. But what I can show is that there is a person on that roof, and that's a legitimate video. There's no disappearing teleportation tree. That tree is not sketchy. There's no weird AI thing going on with the tree. That is all legitimate, guys. And so at the end of this section, I just wanted to say, like, this is what I keep going back to. If you had just heard someone climbed on the roof and took that shot, would you think it was so unbelievable? I don't think so. I don't think it's that unbelievable when you just put it that way. Like, if you didn't think you had been lied about the changing of clothes, and you didn't think you had been lied about the rifle, and you hadn't believed that was AI, would you still think this was that crazy of a story? And I will give it to you, when we heard that it was a 30-06, that to me is the weirdest part about the whole situation. But even then, guys, people coming out saying, I have talked to 15 hunters, and they've all said that every time they've shot a deer, it goes straight through, and all this stuff. A lot of these people don't realize that there's like 10 different types of, or more of different types of 30-06 bullets. And I don't know. That's the weirdest part to me as well. And I can't prove it was, and I can't prove it wasn't. But what you're going to see in this next video is probably going to blow your minds, because I'm going to show you the truth about a lot of it. And what my goal is I can't prove anything true, really. But what I can do is I can disprove most of these theories. And by disproving theories, we can find the truth easier and easier by eliminating. If I can eliminate 4,997 of the 5,000 theories, and then we can focus on the 3 options that are actually legitimate and actually possible, I think that helps a lot.